Chapter 1. He's so sweet, so convenient. The morning sun spilled through the white curtains of the Harper household like a silent promise. The scent of sizzling bacon danced through the kitchen, harmonizing with the gentle clink of plates and the faint gurgle of a percolating coffee maker. James Harper, in a gray thermal undershirt and flannel pajama bottoms, stood barefoot by the stove, humming quietly as he flipped pancakes onto a plate. He glanced at the time, 6:43 a.m. sharp. Right on schedule. He took pride in routines. The smell of maple syrup. The low hum of classic rock playing softly from the Bluetooth speaker. The soft, peaceful moments before the house woke up. With practiced hands, he arranged breakfast on 3 plates. Pancakes, eggs over easy, crispy bacon, and a side of strawberries, Grace's favorite. Chloe's, he remembered, was more about aesthetics these days. So he added whipped cream and drizzled chocolate on hers. Nothing but the best for my girls, he muttered with a small grin. James didn't notice the first red flag that morning. Not really, but it was there like a faint static in the background. Grace walked into the kitchen with her phone clutched in her hand, fingers moving quickly across the screen. She didn't greet him. No smile. Just a half-hearted yawn and a muttered, "Morning." He turned toward her, beaming. "Hey, babe. Made your favorite. And look, I didn't burn the bacon this time." She didn't look up, just slid her phone into the pocket of her robe and shuffled toward the coffee maker. "You're sweet," she mumbled. James caught a glimpse of her phone screen before it disappeared. Just a flash. A name. Daniel. And a heart emoji. His smile faltered for a breath, but he shook it off. Probably her cousin. She always used emojis. That's just how she texted, right? He watched as Grace took a sip of coffee and gave a quick glance toward the plates on the counter. "No toast." James laughed. "You know, you used to swoon over my pancakes." Grace gave a tired smile and leaned against the counter. "Used to, huh? Maybe I've evolved." James chuckled, clearly, into a toast-only, coffee-powered goddess. He walked over and kissed her cheek. She didn't pull away, but she didn't lean into it either. She checked her phone again as it buzzed in her pocket and quickly turned her body slightly away from him. She tapped at the screen, face tight, eyes flicking left and right. James set his jaw, then forced a smile. "Everything okay?" Grace nodded absently. "Yeah, just wedding planning texts with Chloe. You know how she is." He nodded, accepting it like gospel. He'd raised Chloe since she was 10, never legally adopted her, but it had always felt like she was his. They weren't particularly close anymore, but she was growing up. Independent. Strong-willed like her mother. Speak of the devil. Chloe stomped into the room, already dressed in leggings and an oversized hoodie that hung off one shoulder like a curated Instagram post. She didn't glance at James, just grabbed a strawberry off the tray and plopped onto a bar stool. "Morning," James offered with a smile. Chloe popped the strawberry into her mouth. Dad of the year again." His heart warmed at the word dad, even if it was sarcastic. "You actually mean that?" Chloe rolled her eyes, but smirked. "Don't push it, James." Grace let out a small laugh, but it didn't sound warm. More like amusement at someone else's expense. He brushed it off. "Hey, speaking of, I was thinking this weekend we could go look at baby stuff. Cribs, maybe? I saw a nice one on sale. White oak, real solid craftsmanship." Grace's smile was tight. "That's sweet, but I think Chloe and I already picked one online. Daniel helped us find it. He's got an eye for aesthetics." James blinked. "Daniel?" "Yeah, our event planner. You've met him, remember? Tall guy, muscles, the one who complimented the backyard." James laughed a little too hard. "Oh, that guy? Yeah, he seemed charming." He thought back to that afternoon weeks ago when he came home early from work and found Daniel outside by the patio table with Grace, both sipping lemonade, both laughing at something that had gone silent the moment he walked in. Red flag number 2. Chloe snorted. "You should let him redesign the nursery. Your style's like rustic man cave." James forced a chuckle. "I'll keep my tool belt out of the nursery, don't worry." Grace looked at her phone again. The screen lit up. The name Daniel flashed again. "You've been texting a lot with Daniel lately," James said casually. Grace looked up, blinking like she'd been caught mid-thought. "Well, yeah, he's handling most of the wedding stuff. You're always busy with work." There was no accusation in her tone, but the word stung. "Always busy with work." As if that wasn't what paid for Chloe's college prep, for Grace's prenatal vitamins, for the third bathroom renovation she insisted they needed before the baby arrived. James gave a small, tired nod. Yeah, I guess I am. Chloe stood up and stretched. I'll be upstairs. Me and Mom still have to finalize the invitation list. Oh, and I need my tuition check signed. Remember? Deadline's Friday. Of course. James reached into his wallet, pulled out his checkbook, and started writing. How much? Chloe held up 4 fingers with a sly smile. 40 grand. Just a little slice of heaven, right? He winced, but covered it quickly. Right. Heaven. He signed the check and handed it to her. She plucked it from his hand and twirled it like a baton. God, you're like a golden retriever. So loyal. Grace laughed, really laughed, and Chloe joined in. James tried to laugh too, but something twisted in his gut. That was mean, wasn't it? He didn't say anything, just forced a tight smile and cleared the plates. As he washed dishes, Grace's phone buzzed again. She didn't pick it up this time. She just stared at it, lips curled in a secretive smirk. Red flag number 3. Later that evening, James sat on the porch with a glass of whiskey in hand, watching the sun dip behind the neighbor's house. Grace had gone upstairs an hour ago, claiming exhaustion. Chloe was still FaceTiming some friend in her room, laughing a little too loud. James looked down at the framed sonogram photo in his lap. A baby. His whole world waiting to be born. A future that, until today, felt full of light. He didn't notice the faint sound of footsteps inside. He didn't hear the door to Chloe's room crack open or the soft giggle that followed. He had no idea that the pieces were already in motion. But he would soon. And it would all start with a single, damning sentence. He actually believes the baby's his. Chapter 2. That clueless man thinks it's his. Rain had started to drizzle by the time James pulled into the driveway, the tires of his rust-red Service then crunching softly against the wet gravel. The blue and white Harper HVAC Solutions logo gleamed faintly under the streetlight. It wasn't even 6 o'clock p.m. yet. The emergency call that had yanked him out of dinner prep was a false alarm. Just a client who couldn't tell the difference between a blown fuse and a dead compressor. Still, he smiled as he stepped out of the van. At least I get to spend the evening with my girls, he muttered, locking the door behind him. James always loved coming home early. The idea of surprising Grace with a warm meal, maybe catching a few episodes of that crime docuseries she liked, normal things that made a long workday feel worth it. He stepped onto the porch, shaking droplets from his hoodie, and quietly turned the key. The house was unusually silent for that hour. No clatter from the kitchen, no Chloe blasting pop music upstairs, no television murmuring in the background. Just the soft patter of rain against the windows and the occasional creak of the old wooden floor. James closed the door gently behind him and walked toward the hallway, his work boots making muted thuds on the rug. As he passed the nursery, still being assembled, still full of boxes and wall decals and hope, he paused. Laughter. Not loud, not open, but hushed, mocking and close. The nursery door was cracked, just slightly. He could see the soft yellow night light flickering on the wall. Grace's voice drifted out in a low whisper, amused and cutting. He actually believes the baby's his. James froze. His hand had just been reaching for the doorknob, planning to make a goofy entrance and ask what color they should paint the ceiling. Instead, his heart stopped mid-beat. He leaned closer, the sound of his own breath suddenly deafening in his ears. Then Chloe's voice answered, sharp with venomous amusement. That loser is our temporary ATM. James's body went cold. Not just cold, hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside him and left a mannequin standing there. His eyes widened slightly as he stared at the faint outlines of their silhouettes inside the room. Grace sitting on the glider chair, Chloe lying across the half-finished crib, both facing away from the door. He didn't move. He couldn't. He didn't want to believe he was hearing what he was hearing. Not his wife. Not his daughter. Grace giggled again, this time louder, more unfiltered. Oh, I can't wait for this to be over. Me and Daniel living the life we've always wanted. Daniel. The name slithered through James's mind like a toxin. That trainer. The one with the too tight shirts and too easy smile. The one who had been helping with the wedding plans. The one who had complimented Grace's perfume in front of him while pouring drinks at the barbecue like he owned the place. James's breath hitched in his throat. His knees felt weak, but he didn't stumble. He just stared ahead through the gap in the door, like it was a gateway to another world. One where the woman he loved and the girl he raised had conspired to gut him. Grace leaned back, her voice softer now, reflective. I mean, James is sweet, reliable, always working, always trying. But God, it's exhausting pretending. It's like playing house with a puppy. Chloe laughed. He literally made me a color-coded tuition spreadsheet last week, with notes and highlighters. I almost cried from laughter. I told you, Grace said. He's harmless, clueless, the perfect cover. James slowly took one step back from the door, then another. His mind wasn't processing it in order. The words felt scrambled. He heard them in fragments. Temporary ATM. Believes the baby's his. Me and Daniel. He wanted to believe this was a nightmare, some twisted hallucination. But the weight in his chest, the burn in his eyes, it was all too real. He turned and stumbled down the hallway like a man who had just taken a bullet. His breathing grew shallow as he reached the living room. He collapsed onto the edge of the couch and stared at nothing. Minutes passed, maybe hours. The world blurred around the edges. He thought of the ultrasound picture he kept in his wallet. The tiny smile Grace had flashed when she told him she was pregnant. The way he'd kissed her stomach every night before bed, whispering to the life inside. His child. No, her child. Someone else's child. James suddenly stood, his fists clenched, his jaw tightened until it trembled. Rage wasn't even the word for it. It was something deeper, something cleaner. He didn't scream. He didn't slam anything. That would have been easier. Instead, a horrifying clarity began to settle over him. This wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. They hadn't just lied, they mocked him, treated him like an idiot, like a disposable fool to bleed dry and toss aside. His temples throbbed, and for a moment, he thought about storming into that nursery and letting them both have it, exposing the truth in a burst of fury. But he stopped himself. No, not like that. They think I'm clueless? Good. Let them keep thinking it. Because something inside James Harper, something quiet and calculating, snapped into place in that moment. No more blind love. No more giving the benefit of the doubt. His heart might have broken at the nursery door, but something new was forming in the cracks. Cold resolve, precision, patience. He would wait, and when the time came, he wouldn't just walk away. He would make sure they remembered what they did. You know, he actually believes the baby's his. Grace chuckles. Chloe sneers. That loser is our temporary ATM. Grace. Oh, I can't wait for this to be over. Me and Daniel living the life we've always wanted. Chapter 3. Bleed them quietly. James didn't sleep that night. He lay in the dark on the far side of the bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling fan, slowly spinning above him. Grace's steady breathing beside him, calm and oblivious, made his skin crawl. She lay curled on her side, belly slightly rounded from the pregnancy. The pregnancy she had made him believe was his. His fists clenched beneath the sheets, knuckles pale from pressure. The words echoed again like nails on chalkboard. You know, he actually believes the baby's his. That loser is our temporary ATM. Me and Daniel living the life we've always wanted. He didn't move, didn't sigh, didn't blink. They think I'm a fool. A puppet on strings. An open wallet with a heartbeat. Fine. Let them think that. Let them laugh for now. By morning, James Harper would no longer be that man. At 3:14 a.m., he slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her. He moved like a soldier on a stealth mission, heart pounding with a strange, sharp rhythm. In the kitchen, he flicked on his laptop and opened the banking app, his fingers moving fast. Grace had no idea how much access he really had. Their joint checking account, their savings, the baby fund he'd created for diapers and nursery furniture, Chloe's $70,000 college fund, which he'd diligently built over 5 years, sacrificing bonuses, side jobs, and even a dream trip to Alaska. He stared at the screen for a moment, then exhaled. No more. Within 20 minutes, the accounts were drained. Every cent moved to a separate personal account under his name only. The savings Grace thought they had, Gone. The emergency fund? Wiped. The college fund? He deleted it, transferred it to a separate brokerage, and locked it down with new credentials. Guess that Ivy League education just got a little harder, he whispered coldly. Next came the credit cards. He logged into the joint Amex portal and clicked Freeze Account. Then the Visa. Then the store cards Grace liked to use, Nordstrom, Macy's, Wayfair. All frozen. She wouldn't know until her next swipe. He leaned back in the chair, a strange calm seeping in. This wasn't rage. This wasn't desperation. It was control. James hadn't felt this clear-headed in years. By 6 o'clock a.m., the sun had barely begun to rise, but James was already showered, dressed in clean jeans and a black long sleeve, and sipping coffee as the kitchen clock ticked. Grace came downstairs 30 minutes later, robe open, belly cradled in one hand, eyes squinting against the light. "Morning," she mumbled, yawning. James smiled, warm even. "Morning, babe." She blinked at him, caught off guard by the tone. "You're up early. Got a consult at 7. New build. I figured I'd get ahead of it." He kissed her cheek on the way past and felt her flinch slightly. Just a twitch, but enough. She didn't trust him anymore. Good. That made 2 of them. That afternoon, James parked outside a quiet brick office near the edge of downtown. The gold plaque by the glass door read, "Law Office of Caroline Merritt, ESQ Divorce, Litigation and Asset Recovery." She came highly recommended from a friend at the union who'd survived a brutal divorce with his dignity and wallet intact. "She's a killer," the guy had said. "The kind that doesn't blink when she ruins someone's life." Perfect. Inside, Caroline Merritt looked like someone who'd never lost a case. Hair pulled into a tight bun, dark glasses, navy blazer. She barely smiled as she flipped through the initial paperwork. "So," she said, clicking a pen, "she's pregnant. The baby isn't yours, and she doesn't know you know. Is that accurate?" "Yes." "And the stepdaughter?" "She's in on it." I overheard them both. Caroline nodded slowly. "All right, then let's proceed under the assumption we're preparing for war." Back at the house, James began phase 2. Documentation. Every call Grace made, every text she sent within earshot, every cryptic smile after checking her phone, it all became data. He bought a second phone under a prepaid plan and installed a discreet call recording app. He left it near the living room couch where Grace usually took her evening calls. He didn't listen in live, not yet, but he'd catalog everything. He installed a mini GPS tracker under the rear bumper of Grace's car. A simple magnetic unit with real-time tracking linked to his private email. Discreet. Untouchable. He also went back through their shared cloud photo account and found more than a few accidental uploads, images of Grace and Daniel at a cafe, selfies with filter hearts, one particularly telling pic of Grace kissing Daniel's neck, her wedding ring in full view. She must have meant to delete them. She hadn't. James backed them all up twice. And as he worked, memories crept in like ghosts he hadn't invited. Flashback. 5 years ago, Christmas Eve, James stood outside in freezing rain, installing a new furnace for an elderly couple who couldn't afford to wait till morning. Grace had called him 3 times that night. "When will you be home?" she'd asked, voice annoyed. "We're waiting to open gifts." "I'm almost done," he had promised, covered in mud and sweat. "I'll be home soon." He got back at 11:40 p.m. Chloe had already gone to bed. Grace had fallen asleep on the couch. No thank you. No warm hug. Just a cold silence as he crept into bed beside her, exhausted but content knowing he'd done the right thing. That was the problem. He'd always done the right thing. Another flash. Grace's birthday, 2 years ago. He'd picked up an extra Saturday shift to afford the diamond pendant she once admired in a store window. He remembered her opening the box, smiling faintly, and saying, "It's nice. But honestly, I kind of wanted that spa weekend Chloe mentioned." He just nodded, swallowed it. He saw it all differently now. All the missed vacations, skipped hobbies, delayed dreams. He'd traded it all for them, and they'd cashed him in like a check. That evening, James sat alone in the garage, flipping through his dusty notebook of home renovation plans. Page after page of baby crib sketches, backyard upgrades, Chloe's graduation party ideas. He picked up a black marker and began crossing them out one by one. He didn't tell Grace anything that night. He still kissed her cheek when she walked by. Still nodded when Chloe asked him to Venmo her $20 for gas. He even offered to cook dinner, chicken marsala, her favorite. And as Grace scrolled her phone at the table, smiling at some secret text, James smiled too. But his eyes had changed. They were no longer soft. They were calculating. Because now it wasn't about forgiveness or understanding. It was about precision. It was about watching them bleed quietly. Chapter 4. The Lover, the Lie, the Setup. The name Daniel had been looping in James's head like a broken record. Every text, every smile, every time Grace slipped away for a wedding appointment or a prenatal massage, that name pulsed in his thoughts like a migraine. James wasn't the kind of man to jump to conclusions. He verified. He documented. The GPS tracker on Grace's SUV pinged her location 3 times in the past 10 days at the Cedarbrook Lodge and Suites, a place far too cozy for business meetings. Twice, he'd watched her from across the street as she stepped out of the hotel in jeans and a crop top, her hair tousled, her cheeks flushed, and her wedding ring absent. On the 3rd time, she didn't leave alone. Daniel, the so-called wedding planner, with the gym-honed body and the cocky smirk strutted out beside her, laughing at something she said. He kissed her right there in the parking lot before helping her into her car. No shame, no hesitation. James took the photo from inside his truck. Click. He didn't even blink. Back at home, James sat in his office with the blinds drawn, watching through the screen door as Grace sunbathed by the pool. She was laughing again, on her phone, legs draped over a chaise lounge, talking in that sugary tone she used when she wanted something. Probably Daniel. He dialed a number and waited. A man answered on the 3rd ring. Briggs Investigations. James cleared his throat. It's me. I need the full package. Photos, timestamps, confirmed meetings. I'll pay extra for discretion. You'll have it in 3 days, Briggs said. The guy's not subtle. Perfect. Later that evening, Grace strolled into the kitchen wearing one of his old flannel shirts, unbuttoned, belly peeking through. She kissed him on the cheek and opened the fridge like nothing was wrong. James played along, wearing his usual smile. Hey, babe, he said. I was thinking, let's do a little family dinner. You, me, Chloe. I want to make a big announcement. She froze mid-reach. Announcement? Yeah, he said, stirring the pasta sauce on the stove. I've been feeling like we haven't celebrated this baby enough. Thought I'd cook. Light some candles. Do it right. Grace hesitated. I mean, Chloe and I have a lot of planning to do. I already texted her. James replied smoothly. She's excited. The lie rolled off his tongue effortlessly. Grace smiled, though it was forced, and nodded. Okay, sounds nice. Friday night, 7 sharp. That night, James sat on the porch with a bourbon in hand and his phone glowing in the dark. A new browser tab was open, Daniel's name. A few searches later, James found it, buried in a local fitness board forum. A complaint thread. Daniel L. Slept with my girlfriend while she trained at his gym. Total predator. Another. Got my sister pregnant and ghosted her. Avoid. And one more deeper down. Watch your wives. Dude's a con artist. James leaned back in the chair, exhaling. So that was Daniel. The predator. The liar. The homewrecker. Good. Easier to destroy someone who had no moral ground to stand on. By Thursday, the private investigator sent the full dossier. Grace and Daniel had met 5 times over the last 3 weeks. Hotel stays ranged from 90 minutes to 3 hours. There were pictures, close-ups, hugs, kisses, even one photo of them laughing as Daniel handed Grace what looked like a small box, gift-wrapped. James didn't even feel the sting anymore. Just the quiet burn of resolve. He copied every file onto a secure drive, then opened his burner email account and typed, 2. danielsrealdril@gmail.com, subject. You deserve the truth, hi. I thought you should know who Daniel's been spending time with. Attached are photos, timestamps, and hotel records. Check the dates. You're not the only one. A friend, he clicked send, closed the laptop, and poured himself another drink. Friday came fast. James took the day off and spent it deep cleaning the kitchen, polishing the oak table, and setting the lighting just right. He prepped Grace's favorite dish, chicken cordon bleu with asparagus and roasted garlic mashed potatoes. He even bought her preferred red wine, though he knew she couldn't drink it. By 6:30, the house looked perfect. Too perfect. Grace walked in, hair curled, makeup subtle. Chloe trailed behind. On her phone, wearing an expensive-looking silk top James didn't recognize. "I told you this dinner was overkill," she muttered. "Seriously, it's not like it's a wedding rehearsal. Maybe your stepdad wants to feel special," Grace said with a quick glance at James. "It's sweet. Or he's just bored," Chloe said, flopping onto a chair. "Middle-age crisis incoming." James smiled through it all. "Glad you two could make it. Hope you're hungry." He served them both. Chicken, greens, soft music in the background. They chatted casually about the wedding, color palettes, table linens, a DJ Grace wanted. Chloe made a snide remark about people over 40 dancing. Then Grace's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, eyes narrowing, then locked the screen quickly and turned it face down. James caught the twitch in her jaw. "Everything all right?" he asked gently. "Yeah, just spam." But her fingers fidgeted with her napkin. Chloe, meanwhile, seemed annoyed. "Ugh, someone's blowing on my Instagram. Probably Daniel's weird fangirls again." Grace's head snapped toward her. "What?" "Nothing," Chloe said, shrugging. "Some chick tagged me in a post about the other woman and hotel receipts. Probably trolling. I blocked her." Grace's expression faltered. James took a slow sip of wine. "That's strange. Who would accuse Daniel of something like that?" Grace glanced at him. "I don't know. Some crazy ex. Or a current girlfriend," James said with a light chuckle. "You know how messy that stuff gets." Silence. Chloe rolled her eyes. "Whatever. She can post all the screenshots she wants. You know how fast that crap disappears. It's all fake anyway." Grace picked at her food now, her appetite visibly gone. James leaned back in his chair, the picture of calm. "So, anyone want to hear the surprise?" Chloe glanced up. "Sure, why not?" James smiled, slow and deliberate. "Let's wait until dessert." By the time dinner was cleared, tension hung thick in the air. Grace barely touched her wine. Chloe kept glancing at her phone. Her usual snark softened into uncertainty. James returned from the kitchen, carrying a cheesecake. As he sliced into it, he watched Grace closely. Her hands were trembling. He knew why. Because earlier that day, he had emailed Daniel as well. Subject: "Our little secret. Thought you'd want a heads up. The husband knows. He's planning something. I'd be careful if I were you. P.S. Ever been to court? Hope your record's clean." Let the cracks start forming from every angle. Let them crumble. Tensions at home rise. Grace is on edge. Chloe becomes demanding and entitled. And James acts like everything's normal, playing the perfect husband. Chapter 5. A dinner they'll never forget. The evening began with roses. James laid out a bouquet of deep red, long-stemmed roses on the dining table, Grace's favorite, or at least they used to be. He dimmed the lights just right, the warm glow from the chandelier bathing the room in soft gold. The table was set with their best china. A bottle of sparkling cider, non-alcoholic for the baby, of course, sat chilling in the silver ice bucket. Everything looked picture-perfect, like something from a lifestyle magazine. He even wore a dark navy dress shirt, the sleeves rolled just enough to look casual. Calm, inviting. The storm was coming. But first, let them get comfortable. At precisely 7:04 p.m., the front door opened with a click. Grace stepped in first. She wore a silk emerald green dress that clung to her body in all the right ways, paired with gold heels. Her makeup was flawless, subtle shimmer on her cheekbones, deep red lipstick that matched the roses. Behind her, Chloe strutted in like she was on a runway. She wore a champagne-colored crop top and a skirt that screamed money and entitlement. Her hair was curled, her gold hoop earrings swaying with every dramatic turn of her head. Grace gave James a once-over, flashing a smile. "Wow, look at you, Mr. Romantic." James returned the smile, walking forward with a practiced warmth. "You look beautiful. Both of you." Chloe rolled her eyes. "Just don't get weird with the speeches, okay?" Noted, James chuckled. He led them to the table, pulling out chairs for both of them like a perfect gentleman. He poured the sparkling cider into their glasses and raised his own. "To family," he said simply. Grace clinked her glass against his. Chloe offered only the rim of hers. They made light conversation, Grace talking about potential baby names, Chloe chiming in about venue changes for the wedding. James nodded through it all, asked questions, smiled like a fool in love. But beneath the surface, the tension stretched tight. Grace's phone buzzed once. Then again. Her eyes flicked to it. She didn't pick it up. James saw the name flash briefly across the lock screen. Daniel. He said nothing. Instead, he rose from the table just as dessert was served, cheesecake with caramel drizzle. I almost forgot, he said brightly. I've got one more surprise. Grace glanced up, clearly intrigued. More surprises? You're on a roll. James smiled. Yeah, I wanted to do this in front of both of you. He walked toward the living room, where the large flat-screen TV hung above the mantel. The remote sat waiting. He clicked a button. The screen lit up. Grace's playful smile began to fade. A still image appeared, grainy but clear. The exterior of Cedarbrook Lodge and Suites. Then the video began to play. Timestamp. 1:12 p.m., Monday. Grace, in sunglasses and a tank top, is seen getting out of her SUV. Moments later, Daniel appears, tight black shirt, hand on her back. They kiss. She laughs, wraps her arms around his neck. He spins her playfully before they enter the hotel lobby together, hand in hand. Silence engulfed the room. James stood in front of the TV, hands clasped behind his back like a man giving a eulogy. Chloe dropped her fork. Grace's face went pale, then pink, then chalk white. What? What is this? Oh, just some home movies, James said quietly. Thought we could all enjoy them together. The video ended. The screen cut to black. Grace stood up, her voice trembling. James, I can explain, no? James said, walking back to the table. You will listen. He placed a thick manila folder on the table and slid it across to her. It landed right next to the untouched cheesecake. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a stack of printed photographs, stills from the motel camera footage, GPS tracking logs, transcripts of text messages between her and Daniel, some explicit, some painfully mocking. Chloe looked between them, her voice cracking. Mom? What the hell is this? James turned to Chloe, his expression unreadable. It's proof. Of everything. I heard the two of you in the nursery that night. The jokes. The lies. The plan. I've known this whole time. Grace pushed the folder aside, her eyes filling with panic. James, please. You don't understand. It wasn't serious. He means nothing to me, but I did. James cut in, his voice calm level. For 14 years, I meant everything. I paid for your daughter's schooling, your surgeries, your vacations. I built a life around the two of you, and you spat on it. Chloe stood now, arms crossed. So what? You're mad because she cheated? Boo-hoo. People cheat, James. Welcome to the real world. James turned toward her, his tone razor sharp. And you? How dare you call me your temporary ATM? I sacrificed everything for your future, and you laughed in my face. Chloe flinched. Grace sat down heavily, her hands trembling now. James, please, we can fix this. We can go to counseling or take time apart. We don't need to blow up everything. James tilted his head. No, we don't. Just then, the doorbell rang. Chloe spun around. Who the hell? James walked over, calm as a glacier, and opened the door. Standing there was a woman in a crisp black pantsuit and a silver briefcase. Grace Harper? She asked, stepping in. Grace stared. What? I'm Victoria Hayes, legal counsel for James Harper. The woman set the briefcase on the coffee table and opened it. Inside, duplicate copies of divorce papers, financial statements, and a civil suit for fraudulent misuse of marital assets. Grace's mouth fell open. James turned back to them, his voice colder than ever before. Surprise, James says coldly. You're being served. Chapter 6. The aftermath. No money, no fund, no future. The eviction notice was the first thing to break them. It arrived 4 days after the confrontation dinner, official, sealed, and final. Grace stood on the front porch in her bathrobe, blinking in disbelief as she read the paper. The baby bump beneath her robe trembled slightly with her hands. James wouldn't, he can't, she muttered aloud to herself. But he could, and he had. Grace and Chloe had 24 hours to vacate the house. James, through his attorney Victoria Hayes, had filed an emergency marital restraining order, freezing the property from Grace's access and effectively removing her and Chloe until the divorce proceedings concluded. The house was in his name. He'd paid the mortgage, every last penny. She had no legal claim. Grace tried banging on the locked front door. "James," she screamed, "open the goddamn door. You're just going to leave the mother of your child out here like a dog." No answer. The blinds didn't move. Inside, James sat at the kitchen table with his phone, sipping coffee, watching through the Nest camera feed. Calm, unshaken. He saw her yelling, pacing, trying to call Chloe, who was already waiting in the car, arms folded, sunglasses on, hiding the humiliation. Grace switched tactics. "Please," she begged, her voice cracking. "Can we just talk?" Still no response. She finally turned, walked down the steps, and slid into the passenger seat next to her daughter. Chloe didn't say a word. She just put the car in drive and pulled away. At their cousin Morgan's house, where they begged for a couch to crash on, Chloe's phone buzzed nonstop. At first, it was snide classmates, Instagram lurkers, nosy friends asking for tea. Then it turned darker, screenshots of James's now-viral Facebook post. "For 14 years, I raised a daughter who called me a temporary ATM. For 7 months, I kissed a baby bump that belonged to another man. Today, I'm walking away from betrayal, not quietly, but with proof. Here's my story." The post included photos, receipts, video stills from the hotel. He even attached audio from the nursery door confession. The internet exploded. Hundreds of comments poured in. "You deserve better, man. I'm so sorry. That woman is vile. You're a saint for not going nuclear. Bro, respect. You handled this like a boss. Where can I send flowers to this man's lawyer?" Grace's name trended locally. Chloe's TikTok following collapsed. Brand collabs pulled out. She lost 3,000 followers in 2 days. The wedding? Canceled. Daniel was the first rat to abandon ship. Grace tried calling him. Again and again. Voicemail. When she finally cornered him outside his gym, he didn't even pretend to lie. "You're toxic," he said bluntly. And broke. "I'm not signing up for that." She tried grabbing his arm. "You told me you loved me." He laughed bitterly. "I loved your bank account. Now you're just another single mom with drama." He walked back inside without another word. Grace stood there in the parking lot, mascara running, hand over her stomach. She traded a man who loved her for a man who used her. Meanwhile, Chloe logged into her student portal, trying to resubmit her FAFSA documents. An error message blinked. "Unable to verify linked fund. Contact your administrator." She called the finance office. Waited 43 minutes on hold. When the advisor finally answered, he spoke in clipped tones. "Ms. Harper, the Harper Family College Trust has been permanently dissolved. The named fund holder closed it last week." Chloe's mouth fell open. That fund had 70 grand in it. "That's my education. That's my future." "I'm sorry, ma'am," the voice said with quiet finality. "It's no longer available." Chloe flung her phone across the guest bedroom. Morgan opened the door moments later, hands on hips. "Is that how you treat my stuff, Chloe?" "Sorry," Chloe snapped, breathing hard. I can't believe this is happening." "Yeah, well," Morgan said flatly, "you blew up your golden ticket. Maybe try being less of a brat." Grace, spiraling, called James that night. He didn't answer. She texted instead. "Please. I'm sorry. We were stupid. We got carried away. Can we talk? For the baby's sake? Please just respond." No reply. She sent another. "I never stopped loving you. I messed up, but it wasn't all fake. I promise." Again, silence. Then her phone buzzed. But it wasn't James. It was a text from her sister. "I saw James's post. What the hell were you thinking? Mom's devastated. Don't even think about crashing here. You made your bed." Grace slumped on the couch at Morgan's. Her once pristine nails now chipped. Her eyes hollow. She scrolled Instagram in a daze. James had posted a picture of himself at a fishing pier. Alone. Peaceful. The caption read, "I don't need revenge. I just need peace. And I found it." She let out a shaky sob, then covered her mouth to keep quiet. Morgan's kids were asleep in the next room. The next day, Chloe tried calling her biological father, a man she hadn't seen in years but had always bragged about to friends as her cool backup dad. He picked up on the third ring. "Hey, it's Chloe," she began nervously. Silence. Then, "What do you want?" Things are really bad right now. I thought maybe I could come stay just for a bit. Like a few weeks. No, Chloe blinked. What? No, he said again. I saw everything online. You're a little monster, and your mom isn't much better. You played a man who raised you for over a decade. You burned that bridge. But you're my dad. I donated sperm. That's about it. He hung up. Chloe stared at the phone in disbelief, then let out a dry, bitter laugh. Cool, she muttered. Awesome. Grace, desperate now, showed up outside James's job. He was walking to his truck, lunch pail in one hand, when he saw her standing there, arms crossed, eyes red. You can't ignore me forever, she snapped. I'm not ignoring you, James said calmly, unlocking the truck. I just have nothing left to say. Then listen, she shouted. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But don't you think this is going too far? You ruined us. Chloe's got no future now. You want that on your conscience. James looked at her for a long moment. No, he said simply. I want that on yours. She stepped closer. Please, let's talk. Privately. For everything we were, everything we built. Don't throw me away like this. He shook his head. I didn't throw you away, Grace. You walked out the moment you started planning your perfect little future with Daniel. He opened his truck door. You just didn't expect me to wake up before you cashed out. He got in and drove off, leaving her standing there in the parking lot, the wind catching the hem of her cheap maternity blouse. Their left couch surfing and broke. Chapter 7. Rebuilding Without You. It was quiet at the lake. The kind of quiet that wasn't just soundless, but soul deep, like the stillness after a long storm. The water rippled lazily as the wind stirred the trees around the cabin, their leaves rustling in hushed conversation. James Harper sat on the wooden deck in a folding chair, coffee in hand, his eyes fixed on the mist curling over the water surface. He didn't smile. Not yet. But he wasn't angry anymore. Not hollow either. Just here. 6 months had passed since the world he'd built burned to the ground. The house? Sold. The divorce? Finalized. Grace didn't contest it. Probably couldn't afford to. She'd signed everything with barely a whimper after the civil suit had cornered her into financial ruin. The stepdaughter who once called him a loser ATM now wouldn't answer texts from her own relatives. Daniel had vanished from their lives the second the money ran dry. No surprise. James took another sip of coffee and glanced down at his laptop. The new business was slowly taking off. He'd launched Hard Reset Consulting, aimed at helping blue-collar men navigate life after betrayal, divorce, or loss. It wasn't therapy. It was strategy. Financial literacy, mental wellness referrals, legal partnerships. He gave men like him the tools to get back up, minus the shame. His inbox was full almost every morning. He leaned back and exhaled. This was good. Not perfect, not painless, but good. Later that afternoon, James drove into the nearest town, Marrow Creek, population just under 4,000 for groceries and errands. The town was built around the lake, tucked between forested hills and wide, open skies. It was simple, honest. No luxury cars or nose-in-the-air boutiques. At the local market, he reached for a can of tomato soup at the same time as someone else. Their fingers brushed. Oh, the woman laughed, pulling her hand back. Go ahead, your reflexes are faster. James looked up, blinking at her. She had light auburn hair in a loose braid, soft freckles across her cheeks, and a pair of reading glasses perched at the edge of her nose. A warm presence. Not flashy. Not pretending. Thanks, he said. I'll trade you for the last can of chili behind you. She smiled. Deal. They swapped cans, and she gave him a once-over. You're not from around here, are you? Is it that obvious? You're dressed like you used to own something you don't miss anymore, she said playfully, then added, I'm Natalie. I teach second grade at Pine Hollow Elementary. James, he said, shaking her hand. I used to fix air conditioners. Now I fix broken men. That earned a soft laugh. That sounds both noble and incredibly difficult. He smirked. It's mostly just painful honesty and spreadsheets. Sounds like teaching. They talked for 10 minutes in the soup aisle. Nothing flirtatious. Just human. She told him about her son, Oliver, 6, obsessed with dinosaurs and peanut butter sandwiches. She asked about his move, his dog. He didn't have one, but she made him feel like maybe he should. When they parted ways, she waved with a simple, "See you around, James." And he hoped she meant it. Back at the cabin that evening, James sat on the couch and stared out the window at the deepening twilight. A song played softly on the radio, an old one, full of guitar and gravelly truth. He didn't know if he was ready for anything new, but for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel broken at the idea of possibility. 2 weeks later, Natalie invited him to a community fundraiser, quiet, nothing formal. Just a group of neighbors raising money for new school books and playground repairs. James brought hot dogs. Natalie brought her son. Oliver took to James quickly. Too quickly. "Do you know how to fish?" he asked, eyes wide with the kind of curiosity only kids could pull off. "A little," James said. "Will you show me some time?" Natalie looked apologetic. "You don't have to. I'd like to," James said, surprising himself. Later that night, as they packed up folding chairs and plastic coolers, Natalie looked at him over the roof of her car. "You have kind eyes," she said. He blinked, caught off guard. "Not what most people would say." "Well," she smiled, "most people are full of crap." The days slipped by. James didn't rush anything. He didn't let himself fall, but he let himself be present at the lake with the townspeople, with Oliver. He wasn't healed, but he was healing. And then, one rainy afternoon in mid-October, she came back. Grace. She pulled up in a rusted blue car that coughed smoke as it died in his gravel driveway. Her hair was tied up hastily, her face gaunt, tired, the belly much bigger now, probably 8 months along. James watched from the deck, arms folded. She stepped out slowly, holding a cheap umbrella, shoulders tense. "I didn't know where else to go," she said, voice cracking. "Please, just talk to me." He didn't move. She took a few steps closer. "I lost everything, James. Chloe's living in someone's basement. My mom won't talk to me. Daniel, he's gone. Left me." He said the kid's probably not even his. "He blocked me. Everyone's blocked me." James said nothing. "I don't want money," she whispered. I needed to look you in the eye. One last time." He stepped down the stairs, stopping halfway between her and the porch. Her face broke. "You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I ruined it. I don't even have an excuse. I was scared. I didn't know how to be loved like that. I didn't know how to respect it." He looked at her, her belly, her brokenness. Then he said, "That child will grow up just like you, unless you change. But I won't be part of it." "James, I was scared." "No, you were selfish." Chapter 8. From clueless to cold steel. The nursery door hadn't been opened in months. Not since that night, the night the voices shattered everything. The night he stood frozen outside this very room, listening to betrayal clothed in laughter. It had remained untouched ever since. A tomb of false hope. A room painted in lies. James stood outside it now, hand on the knob. He inhaled slowly, then turned the handle. The scent hit him first, faint lavender, baby powder, and something older, maybe dust, maybe memory. The crib stood in the center of the room, pristine, still wrapped with the yellow ribbon Grace had picked out. The mobile hung above it, still playing a soft, tinny lullaby when James wounded, like he used to during long evenings alone, dreaming of being a father. He walked slowly inside. His boots creaked on the hardwood floor. To his right, the changing table, unused. Folded baby blankets, still with the tags on. A half-filled diaper caddy. Wipes. Tiny socks. On the wall hung 3 frames. A sonogram, a watercolor print of baby elephants, and a photo of Grace with her hands resting on her belly, smiling brightly, fraudulently. James had taken that photo. She told him it was his child. He took the photo off the wall, frame and all, and placed it on the floor by the door. Then the sonogram. Then the announcement card that still sat on the dresser. Coming soon, baby Harper, March 12th. He stared at that last one for a long moment. "Harper," he murmured. "My name." It was never his child. He picked it up and turned it over. On the back, Grace had written in her neat, bubbly handwriting, "I can't wait to watch you hold her for the first time." James felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. Not anger, not sadness, just finality. He gathered it all, the picture, the sonogram, the card, the tiny elephant onesie folded in the drawer, and carried it downstairs. Out back, the fire pit waited. The logs were dry. The kindling caught quickly. He stood over the flames, staring at the paper and fabric in his hands. He remembered the day they painted the nursery, how Chloe had refused to help, claiming she wasn't a babysitter, and Grace had laughed and made excuses for her. He remembered holding the sonogram in the ultrasound room, tears in his eyes, his throat thick with pride. And then he let it go. Piece by piece, he tossed each memento into the fire. Watch the smoke rise. The corner of the sonogram curled. The frame blackened. The onesie twisted in the flames until all that remained were ashes. A gust of wind carried the smoke toward the trees. James stood motionless until the fire went cold. Later that evening, he sat at the kitchen table with a pen and a blank sheet of paper. It took him a while to begin. He wasn't writing for closure. He didn't believe in that anymore. He was writing for the man he used to be, the man who believed he was raising a daughter who loved him. Dear Chloe, I don't know who you've become, but I know who I was when I loved you. And I won't pretend that part of me didn't want to believe this was all a phase, a mistake you'd come back from. But betrayal isn't a phase. Disrespect isn't a mistake. It's a choice. You laughed at me when you thought I wasn't listening. You used me when you thought I was blind. You cashed the checks. You wore the dresses. You smiled in family photos I framed. And then you set the match. Still, I hope one day you build something real. Not from manipulation, but from humility. I hope you get tired of hiding behind cruelty and learn the quiet weight of empathy. Not for me, for yourself. But we're done, Chloe. That bridge is burnt, and I won't rebuild it. Good luck. James Harper. He folded the letter and placed it in an envelope. He didn't know where she lived now. He wouldn't send it, but it was written, and that was enough. The next morning, he met Natalie and Oliver by the dock. The boy wore rain boots, 2 sizes too big, and carried a plastic tackle box in one hand. Are the fish awake yet? Oliver asked. James chuckled. They will be, once they smell you coming. Natalie walked beside them, a light scarf around her neck and a thermos of hot cocoa in hand. She didn't pry. She never did. They sat on the edge of the dock, lines in the water. Oliver talked about dinosaurs and school bullies, and how he was going to grow up to be a paleontologist chef. James just listened. When Natalie leaned over and whispered, "You're really good with him," he smiled faintly. "I missed this," he said. Later that afternoon, after dropping them off, James returned to the cabin and opened his laptop. He logged into his banking app and clicked on a new tab. Investment accounts. There was a balance. $42,000. Saved quietly, conservatively. The old college fund, Chloe's, was gone. But this one? He clicked Create New Account. Account name: Oliver H., Education Future Fund beneficiary. Natalie Harper's son. He paused over the surname. Harper. That name still meant something. He hit submit. He didn't tell Natalie. Not yet. He didn't do it for thanks or recognition. He did it because Oliver deserved better. Because somewhere in the wreckage of his own story, James had learned that the best revenge was not becoming the monster who broke you. And this was peace. Not perfection, not a Hollywood ending, but an honest one. And finally his heart is at peace. Chapter 9. Epilogue. Lessons of a Clueless Man. The stage lights were warm. Not blinding, but focused, casting a subtle glow across the podium as James adjusted the microphone. Behind him, a banner read, Resurgence 2026. Men rebuilding after betrayal. The conference hall was packed. Fold-out chairs lined in tight rows, filled with men of all ages, some in suits, some in worn jeans, some with tired eyes and wedding bands they hadn't yet taken off. A few sat with arms crossed, skeptical. Others leaned forward, eager, open. James looked down at the index cards in his hand. He'd spent weeks trying to prepare a speech. He didn't use them. Instead, he looked up and began to speak, calm, steady, his voice grounded not in anger, but in truth. Good evening. I'm James Harper, and a year ago, I was a husband, a stepfather, and according to my wife and her daughter, nothing more than a temporary attune. A ripple of quiet laughter moved through the room, dry, knowing. I believed I was going to be a father. I kissed the bump. I painted the nursery. I worked weekends to save for a future I wasn't going to be part of. And I loved 2 people who saw me as nothing more than a means to an end. He paced slowly across the small stage, hands open. Now, you're probably thinking this is going to be a story of revenge, or a cautionary tale about love and betrayal. And sure, there's some of that. But what I really want to talk about is clarity. He paused. Let the silence settle. Because clarity doesn't come the moment you're betrayed. It comes after the storm. After you've cried in your garage with a beer in your hand and no one to talk to. It comes after you check the baby monitor one last time before you realize the child isn't yours. It comes when you stop asking, why did she do this to me? And you start asking, why did I let it continue for so long? The room was still. No coughs. No shifting chairs. Just a room full of men leaning in. We, as men, are taught to provide, to protect, to stay strong no matter how tired we get. But strength isn't silence, and loyalty isn't stupidity. He smiled, wryly. See, my wife thought I was clueless, that I didn't notice her sneaking out at night, that I believed the wedding plans were for our future instead of hers and her lovers, that I'd keep working, keep smiling, keep feeding the lie like a loyal little mule. He picked up a bottle of water, took a sip. But here's the thing about clueless men. We're not clueless. We're kind. We're hopeful. We want to believe people mean what they say. That vows means something. That family means something. The microphone picked up the subtle edge, now entering his tone. Not anger, but a steel core resolve. But when a man wakes up from that hope, when he opens his eyes and sees the betrayal for what it is, not a mistake, not a moment, but a pattern, that man doesn't just walk away. He rises. A few claps echoed from the back. I didn't scream. I didn't hit walls. I didn't threaten or beg. I quietly sold the house, emptied the accounts, burned the nursery, and I invested that love into something honest. Today, I run a consultancy for men like you, men crawling out of betrayal and trying to stand again. I mentor kids who don't have fathers. I show up for people who show up for me. His voice softened now, and I'm not bitter. I'm grateful, because betrayal taught me something that loyalty never could. That peace doesn't come from holding on. It comes from letting go, with grace and fire at the same time. Several heads nodded. Some clapped. Others just sat still, taking it in. James walked back toward the center, both hands now gripping the edges of the podium. To the men here tonight who are hurting, who are questioning everything you've given, sacrificed, and built for people who never deserved it, I leave you with this. Never mistake loyalty for weakness. And never underestimate a man who's been quietly betrayed. We don't burn down in anger. We rise from the ashes, and we remember. You may think we're clueless, until you realize we were just giving you the rope. The room erupted. A standing ovation. Not explosive, but strong. Steady. Earned. James stepped back from the podium, nodded once, and walked off the stage. Not a broken man, not a bitter one, but a rebuilt one.